Hey pals, I'm here today to do my fourth reading stats check-in of the year. So I've been doing these videos to sort of monitor my reading. The main focus of them is to monitor if I'm managing to reduce my TBR. I started the year with 67 unread books on my shelves and I wanted to get that, I say to zero, but there are actually about 3 books I don't mind carrying over because they're non-fiction books that I've tried to read before, don't have enough knowledge about the subject matter, and so need to read something that's more introductory first, but still want to keep those books to go back to in the future. So yeah, I want to get it down to 3 to 5, I guess. I'd be very happy with that. And the reason I want to do that, I mention this in every video, but in case you haven't seen those videos and you want to know, is because I very much like reading by whim, and I found that I, at my worst, had I think 380 unread books on my shelves. A lot of those books I wasn't even interested in anymore because my reading taste changed yearly, and also I had a lot of guilt, and I really miss what I did when I was a child and a teenager, which was go to the library every Saturday and get a stack of books and just be able to immediately start reading them. And so I want to try and get back into that habit. So what happened in July and August? So at the end of June I had 68 books on my TBR, so I'd actually managed to increase it by 1 over the course of the year. Really wasn't doing very well because each month I was doing quite well until May, which was my birthday month, and I think I ended up getting 27 new books, so that really just messed things up massively, and I've been trying to claw my way back down since then. So in July I read 10 books and 6 of those were off my physical TBR. So I think 3 of those were books I'd had for a while longer, and 3 of them were newer books that I'd picked up in the last few weeks and read pretty immediately, which is where I want to be. And then the other 4 would be a combination of audiobooks I didn't own physically and library books I of course didn't own. And then in August I only read 7 books, 4 were off my physical TBR, 1 being an older book, 3 being newer books, and then the other 3 books were a mixture of audio and library books that aren't off my physical TBR. So across those 2 months I read 17 books and 10 did reduce my TBR, which I'm fairly happy with, but I do sort of change my TBR in other ways because I sometimes unhaul books that I've just lost interest in. I DNF a lot of books, but I also buy new books in. So in July my TBR went down by 6 books because I read 6, I bought 2, but then I unhauled 2 as well. I think they were DNFs. So I got it down to 62 books in July. And then in August, I, like I said, read 4 books off my TBR, bought in 6. There was a lot of books I bought in August, mainly fantasy books that were for buddy reads I was taking part in, or the next book in a fantasy series I really wanted to continue. But then I unhauled 5 books, quite a lot of those being DNFs that I just wasn't enjoying. So I managed to reduce my physical TBR by 5. So at the end of August I got down to 58 books, which I was quite pleased with, and that's still quite a lot of books to tackle in the final 4 months of the year, but I'm feeling quite hopeful that I can manage it. So I'm now going to talk about what those purchases were and those DNFs in case you are interested. So in July I was sent 2 books from publishers. I didn't buy any books. But I was contacted by both these publishers and asked if I was interested, and I'm very picky now about that because I went through a phase when I first started being sent books by publishers where I could easily get 10 books a month, and sometimes I would say yes to books just because they sounded a bit interesting and it's exciting, but actually then it would just overwhelm me. So I said yes to both of these because I'm really interested in reading them soon. I was offered I think all of Jamaica Kincaid's books have been re-released by Picador in these lovely editions. But the old me would have been yes, I'll have all 5 or 6, I think it was. The new me is I've never read anything by this author before. I've heard lots about this one. It's a coming-of-age story. It's Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. And so I thought I'll try this one, and then if I really enjoy it, I can then purchase myself the others or borrow them from the library. So I was kindly sent this one by Picador. And then the other book I was sent is Amy and Lan by Sadie Jones. I was sent this, I think, from, let me double check who published this, Chatto and Windus. So yeah, I was sent this by them. I really like the sound of this. I've never read anything by this author before. I'm saving this for an autumnal read because you're following 2 children who grow up on a West Country farm where there are a group of families trying to build this life together. but it says that the adults are too busy to keep an eye on Amy and Lan, and Amy and Lan would never tell them about climbing on the high barn roof or what happened with the axe that time, any more than their parents would tell them the things they get up to, adult things like betrayal that threaten to bring the whole fragile idyll tumbling down. So yeah, I read the first couple of pages of this, really like the writing style, and like I said, it feels really autumnal, so looking forward to getting stuck into that one. And it's exciting, like, getting new books now, because I know, because I have so few, and comparatively to how many I did have, I know some people would still think having 50 or 100 books is a lot and excessive, and I completely get that. I know I'll be able to get to them in the next few months, so that's very exciting. Yeah, so that was all in July, so I was very good. I think it might be the only month of the year so far where I haven't bought any books. Not so good in August, because I purchased, I think 7 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, but one of them doesn't count because it was a book I'd already read, so that didn't affect my numbers. So the 7 books I bought were A Song for One by Guy Gavriel Kay. This was part of a read-along that took place in August, so I bought it specifically for that readathon and very much enjoyed this one, have read it, and will carry on reading Guy Gavriel Kay's works. The next one is The Perfect Golden Circle by Benjamin Myers. This was a hardback release I paid full price for because I read The Offing earlier in the year and loved it. And sadly, I didn't enjoy this one anywhere near as much, so I wish I'd just sort of waited for a library copy. So I've learnt my lesson there, but there you go. Then I also purchased The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janny Wirtz, which is the first book in the War of Light and Shadow volume, or series I should say, and this is an epic, high epic fantasy. Again, there was a buddy read taking place in August, so I picked this one up. Then I also wanted to carry on with 2 series, one of them being the Between Earth and Sky series by Rebecca Roanhorse, and the second book is Fevered Star, so I picked that one up. And then the next one is book 2 in the Winds of the Foreland series, and that is Seeds of Betrayal by David B. Coe. This only just arrived. I've been desperate to read this. This is the one I had to pick up secondhand from America. It's taken weeks to get here. And like every day I've been like, I really desperately want to start this book, so we'll definitely be starting this as soon as possible. And then the last one, this is a book club read. For this month in September, I will link the book club down below in case you're interested, but I just thought I'd buy this one in advance because I'd previously ordered some books from Blackwell's, which is where I got this from, and they took ages to get here, and I was like, I don't want that to happen with this one too, so I bought it in advance, very organised. And that is Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott, and that is a sort of epic space opera sci-fi book, so there's that. So how much did I spend? I don't think I've actually worked this out, so I'm going to have to do some quick maths. 1 second. So those 7 books cost me £70, and I bought all of them from Blackwell's except for the one I had to pick up secondhand, which I got from a seller on Abe Books. And then for the DNFs, I DNF'd 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books in July. 2 of those were books off my shelves, and the rest were all library books or audiobooks. I DNF quite a lot of library and audiobooks because I take much more of a risk on them. I have a Scribd account, so I get like an unlimited amount of audiobooks for free, and obviously the library's free. So yeah, I DNF library books much more often than I DNF my own books because I am much more careful with choosing my own books to like spend money on. So yeah, that's like pretty standard for me. And the 2 books I DNF'd and unhauled in July were White Magic by Elisa Washutu, which was a non-fiction essay collection. Tonally, it just didn't really work for me. And the other is Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Contrail. I love the sound of this, love the cover. Thought it was just like appallingly badly written, so I got rid of that one. And I haven't got either of those because I've already got them out of the house. I'm fairly organised at like not having books linger around because we have fluffy cats, and if you leave a stack of anything around, not on shelves, it will just collect lots of furballs. So that's not fun. In August, I DNF'd 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books, and 4 of those were off my shelves. So obviously it's disappointing when that happens because I've like chosen these books carefully, supposedly, and paid money for them. And all 4 of these were books I'd picked up this year. So it was not like I'd had them for a while and my taste had changed. But yeah, I think A couple of them I purchased on my birthday, a day when I went in a bookshop. I wanted to support like a new bookshop in Norwich, and I just was feeling a bit like trying things that were quite different to what I usually read. So two of them just turned out not to be for me, and they were Fresh by Margot Wood, which is a YA book, and again tonally I just really didn't get on with that, and the other was a horror novel called The Between by Tanana Reeve Dew. Just didn't really like the writing style. And then the other two were Across the Nightingale Floor by Leanne Hearn, and also The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janny Wirtz, which you just saw me talk about hauling. So I literally hauled it, read, DNF'd, like gave up on it all within the week it arrived, which was always fun. So yeah, those four. I do talk in detail about my thoughts on books I've DNF'd over on my Patreon. I really enjoy doing those videos, so if you're interested, I always link it down below and you can go look at the like tier options. I do currently reading tier, a DNF tier and a reading vlog tier. So yeah, I have lots of fun over there. Obviously, if you're not able to support, then don't even worry about it. Another thing I like to talk about in these videos is how many pages I read each month, and that's just because I was trying to consider the like relationship between how many pages of books I read that I DNF and how much I read in a month, because I had a feeling that the more I DNF, the less I read, because like repeatedly reading books I don't enjoy sort of discourages me from picking up another book, and so far across the year that has been the case. So yeah, I definitely have tried in the last couple of months to be much more conscious of the books I borrow from the library. I at one point had like 30 books on hold, and I went through and cancelled I think like 25 of them, because I realised just firstly it was just slowing me down and getting through my actual books, and secondly I was just requesting a lot of books just because they were new releases and I was like I could like them, I wasn't waiting for any reviews, and it was just taking up a lot of my reading time, and like it's not fun to like DNF like 7 or 8 books a month. So I tried to be a bit more careful of that. Can't say it's 100% working, but I guess in August, like I just said, 4 of the books I DNF'd were my own books, so maybe it's working, I don't know. So in July, I read a total of 3,173 pages. I like to try and read over 3,000 pages a month, and I hadn't managed that in May or June. I'm actually quite surprised I managed it in July, because I feel like I haven't read much the last couple of months, just because I really struggle to read in the heat, and like I'm sure you've heard, it's been pretty bad in the UK this year heat-wise. But yeah, I did manage to read that much. 1,890 of those pages were physical books that I finished. 937 pages were the free audiobooks I listened to. And then in July, the totality of pages I read that ended up being books I DNF'd is 346, which is a fine amount. Like I'm pretty happy with that. Like it's been way higher than that at other points in the year. In August, I read 3,143 pages, so pretty much the same. Interesting, because I read 10 books in July and 7 in August, but the page count was nearly the same because I read a couple of much longer books in July. So I read physically 1,786 pages. On audio, I listened to 666 pages, and I DNF'd 691. So pretty much doubled the amount of pages I DNF'd, but I got quite far into a couple of books, like over 100 pages. So they added quite a lot to that total. So yeah, I've managed to read much more in the past couple of months, which, like I said, just doesn't make much sense to me because it really doesn't feel like I have. But I guess I've read a bit more fantasy, and I just find fantasy much quicker read. So like I can read a 600-page fantasy book in like 4 days. That's much less common for me with like non-fiction or like literary fiction. So I think those couple of books just moved me along a little bit. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. Like I said, I have 58 books now to read before the end of the year. But like I said, I'm happy to not read a few of those. So like, I guess like maybe like 53 books to read before the end of the year. Obviously we're partway into September, so that has changed, but I will talk about that in the next check-in, I should say. I think one thing I have noticed is that I've really been in the mood to read fantasy, and quite a few of my purchases that I then DNF'd, and also books I borrowed from the library that I then DNF'd, were epic, sci-fi or fantasy, that I'd heard lots of people on the sort of fantasy side of BookTube absolutely rave about. I've heard really good things, but actually they really didn't work for me. And I think I have to remind myself that even though I really love watching all of Fantasy BookTube and have lots of fun hearing the recommendations. I think I do tend to have quite different reading tastes from the majority of those booktubers. And so sometimes it's really easy to be caught up in the excitement, but what I found is that I ended up purchasing or borrowing lots of books that just like clearly weren't books I liked writing style wise, and it's really easy to get caught up in the excitement, especially when there's like group reads going along. So I'm trying to now spend the rest of this year really trying to just read books that like I've done lots of research in, that I've heard people rave about, who I think have similar taste to me in fantasy books, and really trying to like dig deeper and find out what specifically works for me, because I don't just want to have a takeaway from the last couple of months, well, you know, you just don't really like fantasy, because I know that's not the case. I know I really do. But I think I just have a really specific taste in fantasy, which doesn't really reflect what the fantasy publishing market is right now. Like the majority of books that are picked up by big fantasy publishers and are super successful don't work for me. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't enjoy fantasy. I'm just not in line with what the majority of fantasy readers are enjoying right now, which is okay. So yeah, let me know if you have any thoughts on any of my thoughts. I'd love to know if you are trying to like achieve anything this year, reading wise, or like, you know, collection wise. You are probably noticing in my videos that the way this shelf looks keeps changing, and that's because obviously I keep reducing the amount of books on this shelf, because this is all of my to be read books. And so I've just got to the point where I can now fit on library books, but also a few books I want to reread. I've also put on here. And my aim is to basically like get rid of this, and this will become all books I've read as well. And then maybe I'll just keep my few to be read books in my book trolley, which is in another part of the room. That's the plan. So hopefully, like by next year, everything behind me I will have read. So if you're like, oh, what were your thoughts on that? I can actually tell you, rather than being like, still not read it. So yeah, anyway, I'm just babbling on now. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know any of your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.